The Sustainable Voice, bringing you big successes from small places worldwide.
Good morning, Leigh. Welcome back to Sustainable Voice, everybody. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you and our special guest today.
We do have a special guest today, and she's a rock star that you and I have known for almost 2 decades. When you come to think of it, I mean, she is a rock star, isn't she? I mean, look, she even looks like one. Look at the hair, look at everything. She looks like one.
Don't you dare.
Well, and world, you just met the real Lisa Bain. That's going to be on her epitaph. It's going to be, don't you dare. That's going to be written on her gravestone. Don't you dare. Not here lies one of the greatest women ever. It's going to be, don't you dare. There it is.
Yeah.
Well, Leigh, we have been talking about powerful women. And in the first part of this, we talked about you. And we talked about
uncomfortable, Lisa.
I know, it was great watching you squirm. I got to tell you.
It was horrible.
But you did great. And you know what? The world needed to know all of your amazing accomplishments. So part 2 of this, and really for these two sections, these two parts, I wanted to make sure we had women that I admire. Because ones that I can articulate the story, like the way you did. So we have Lisa Bain. Lisa, world, this is Lisa.
Hello, world.
So our subscriber base has been growing by leaps and bounds because of the types of topics we bring. And we're not talking about travel. We're not just talking about particular industry. We are talking about how I rail on the IMF every now and then, but that's kind of fun to do. But today we're talking about powerful women. And I have to tell you folks, Lisa Bain, I've known her for 15 years now, and I have been in awe of her since the first day. And she's going to blush. We're going to watch. Those of you watching on YouTube, you're about to see an Australian blush. Make sure you record it because it doesn't happen very often. So here we are talking about Lisa. Leigh, let me start with you. What was your first impression of Lisa when you first met her?
Oh, man. Okay. I can tell she already, I'm not going to make her feel uncomfortable.
Oh, come on, please.
Lisa is just a very intelligent, kind, thoughtful person she's driven, but in the best kind of way. I mean, she's just really, she's the kind of person you want to be around, and you feel better. You feel like your life is elevated just by being around Lisa.
That sums it up pretty well. In typical Lisa fashion, we were talking about the topic of powerful women. And when I talked to you, Leigh, I'm not sure if I should be the person. We talked to Lisa, and the first thing out of our mouth is that really the right title? So typical Lisa fashion is, well, I'm so happy you're doing it your way, but we're going to do it my way now, which I'm actually quite happy to do because her way is usually the right way. So Lisa, why don't we start off with that? You had said that powerful women really isn't the right category. And I thought your answer was pretty profound. So we're going to start the conversation there.
Yeah, look, that word powerful is so often attributed to position and money and the effect you have on those beneath you, right? I think that's where people's minds go first when you talk power. And to me, powerful is when you lift other people up. We were kind of talking about this earlier, right? Madeleine Albright has this great quote about there's a special place in hell for women who don't lift up other women. And I love that, but I think there's a special place in hell for anyone who doesn't lift up everyone.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, you want to be able to help those around you to be better, to support them, to be a voice, to be their champion. And that's what you hope other people are for you. And I've had the great joy of working with people who have given me opportunities that I didn't think I was capable of. And they said, no, we see it. Now you've got to go for it. So I think when you talk about powerful women, powerful men, anyone who uses that term, it should be how powerful you are in supporting those around you, those beneath you, those above you, so that they see what they can bring to this amazing planet, right? And we kind of joked about this before, that some people will see that as a weakness. I feel sorry for them, honestly, because true power is how you impact those around you and 2 generations from now, the impact they have on others, right? It's a trickle on effect.
You've summarized really what this podcast is about. We have so many new listeners every month, and we summarize the focus of our podcast pretty simply as big successes in small places, right? Oftentimes, when we talk about success, we talk about heroes, we talk about somebody doing something, there's usually a brand name or a famous person's name. So this podcast is about the people who don't have that $1 million marketing budget, that don't have that famous name, but yet they're making a huge difference. And I'm going to ask you a question because it's going to lead to something that I've seen you do. But I'm going to ask you a question. Let's say you're having a conversation with somebody who is upset at you, who is basically giving you the business. How do you turn that conversation around and practice what you just said? That real power is about lifting other people up. How do you lift up people that you just, don't want to be near?
Okay, that's such a great question. And it's always in the moment how you handle it, right? You can't get angry and come back at them in the same way. You have to, and one of my hardest, and this is hard for me, Ashish, listening is a real skill. And sometimes you want to jump in straight away and go, no. You've really got to take a deep breath and listen. And just because you're silent doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. It means that you're trying to understand why they're upset, why they're angry, why they have that opinion or that thought. And so it's really hard for me, like I think it is for a lot of people, but you have to stop and kind of take a deep breath, listen, and then give them your opinion without it feeling like you're teaching them, that you're going, no, this is how it's done. You have to kind of be thoughtful in how you talk to them. And it's different with every conversation. I don't think there's a silver bullet of this is how you approach it. I mean, you and I, let's talk about your hideous Tom Brady.
Oh, well, we have to preface this. We have to preface this first. And before I preface it, I have to basically summarize in pop culture for some of our younger listeners. What you're basically saying is be Taylor and don't be Kanye and I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. So now let's talk about this Tom Brady thing. So Lisa and I have traveled on the road together for years. And basically she is the leader and me and one other person are Minion 1 and Minion 2. We need shirts made up. So of course we're going through the lovely, lovely city of Boston, and then we're heading out through Massachusetts, beautiful area towards Rhode Island. And we see Gillette Stadium. Mm-hmm. Famous in Foxborough, famous home for Tom Brady and the Patriots and whatnot. And of course, in my worst Boston accent, I can't help myself. I basically become the very person that Lisa tries to lift up but fails miserably at, is basically where I go past and go, God bless Tommy Brady. I can't help myself.
For hours, not just a moment, an entire road trip.
But you know what happened on that road trip? I remember when we first got there, we were worried about the event we were doing and everything else. But in that moment, I've never laughed so hard in my life. And I think that's what you're basically saying is as you lift people up, you've got to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Right. And where I am is, pretty disturbing. But you got to meet them where I am. I think, Leigh, you and I have talked about that just in how we talk to people. So, that's actually a great segue. Let me ask you this question. Can you give me an example of where you met somebody where you are? And I can think of a dozen, but you do it all day long without even knowing it, which is what makes you that person. But tell me about this moment where you basically ceded power in order to meet somebody where they are.
Wow.
It's difficult, I know.
That's a really difficult question. Ceded power.
Do you think ceded power? I don't think you ever cede your power.
No.
I will jump in real quick and say I have watched Lisa cede power, and not because she had to. She did it because at the moment it's what it called for.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't call it ceding power. Mm-hmm. I think that's that word again, right? And it's misconstrued, misunderstood. I think subconsciously what I do is I try and bring them along a different path.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in the business we're in, sustainability is one of the core tenets of what I believe in. And that's different for everyone else, their journey on the sustainability road, right? I get to do a job that I love because I wake up every morning and I can tell my kids, or I can show to my kids, that I'm doing something that I hope will leave this planet better than it was before I got here. And that's the way I bring my passion to what I do in this world, because I know I'm doing something and working for a company that allows us to make change. And so I feel good, and I hope that my kids, through my example, and I think that's a lot of what you're saying. So we often on the road will run into people who don't believe in the environment, or they don't believe in, what tourism can do to change lives, right? They're a little bit, you know what, it's a job. And so for me, it's storytelling in a way that helps them go, oh, okay, I can see that. I can see. I think it's like what you do, Ashish, and what you do, Leigh. When you talk to someone, and it is just comes out of every fiber of your being that you love what you do and you believe in it wholeheartedly, it is very hard for that person on the other side of the conversation not to go, oh, okay, there's something there, right? So I don't think it's ceding power. I think it's sharing enthusiasm. I think it's sharing story. I think it's sharing our beliefs in a way that aren't threatening. Because so often today when people argue, and we know that it's at the moment, this world is very kind of at each other's throat, you can't come at each other that way. You've just got to talk your truth, what you believe in. And if you do it in a way that's soft and gentle, what is it? Carry a big stick, but
walk softly.
Walk softly.
Yes.
It changes. It has an effect on people. And so,
for the record, Madeleine Albright didn't say that, by the way.
No, she didn't say that.
Just making sure.
No, but I just think that it's in every conversation. You have to find something where you have you can level set with each other, right? And you share your story, and they either walk away going, okay, I see a greater truth in that, and you've planted a seed that they'll then continue to look into, or they don't.
Right.
But you've done your very best. And I think what we've done over the years, Leigh and Ashish, is we've surrounded ourselves with people who have either been on the edge of, our world and have now come into it because they're like, okay, I like this space. I like the fact that we're not yelling at each other, that we're not confrontational with each other, that we want to care about the places we go to and the people we see, and down to being stuck in a car talking about Tommy Brady for 3 hours, but finding the absolute joy in how we shared that moment and how it built our relationship. So I would just say, for me, every conversation is an opportunity to make a new friend.
Yep.
Right.
A new connection. Well, you've said something profound, because, and again, I know it's not rocket science, but it is still profound. It's because we as a society have forgotten that, right? So in one of our past episodes, Leigh and I talked about the International Monetary Fund, and we talked about the lack of oversight, and we talked about what they're doing to the poorest countries in the world, because I see it on the ground firsthand, right? And we talked about the fact that this is an organization that was designed to help, and they're being divisive instead. And it's about money and about debts and about paying your bills, but it's going about all the wrong way. And I think if we break society down to the simplest common denominator, it's what you just said. Every conversation is about making a new friend, right? And I'll tell you this. So I remember a conversation. So I was telling Leigh our last episode, and we were talking about Leigh about an episode we were recording the day that my father was triggered down for the worse, and I completely broke down. And we were with Leigh, and she said, "We don't have to do this right now." And I kept trying to push, and she just stopped. And I remember a similar moment with you. We were talking specifically. This was years and years and years ago. We were at the airport here at Palm Beach, and I was telling you about something that was happening, some of my fears. And you started talking specifically about your time in Korea. And then you talked about your time in Darwin. But I want to take everybody to Korea because you've lived in Korea, obviously. And there was a moment where you basically lost everything, and if you wouldn't mind, would you be willing to share that? And the reason I ask is, now you're on the air, so you can't say no now, obviously. But the reason I ask is because I think there are a lot of people who don't know that about you, right? What we see right now, we look at Lisa, we see somebody who is professional, who looks the part, who does this. I don't know if many people know what you've actually been through. The first thing I noticed when I first met you was your scar. That was the first thing I noticed. And then from there, when we got into it, I really started understanding who you are. But can we go to Korea and can we talk about your time there? And you can be as deep or as brief as you want to be.
Wow. And I put lipstick on for you today. So
so many jokes I can
and
make
for those
there.
who know me, that doesn't happen very often. So didn't know it was going to go down this rabbit hole so quickly. Yeah, look,
welcome to the Sustainable Voice.
That's great. Yeah, look, I went to South Korea. I followed a man to South Korea who had a great job opportunity. And like I think many women do, right? This is where I'll use that word, we cede our power to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was very happy to do so, but got there and realized one of my great joys is working. I love to work. I do. I love it. I love being around people. And I didn't have a job. I didn't have the ability to work at the time. And very quickly realized that the relationship wasn't the right fit, right? For many reasons. And it all ended up good in the end for both of us. But I found myself without a job, without direction, having given up working at J. Walter Thompson in Australia and another great company. And I was very much kind of adrift and didn't know what I was going to do. And I was introduced to an amazing person at the British Bar, kind of had a chat about they were looking for someone to work in a small PR company in South Korea. And they said, you should come over in the morning, have a little chat. And so, I went over, sat down, had a coffee, talked for a couple of hours. Bill then said, let's go upstairs, went and met a couple of other folks in the office and never left. I was there for 6 years, but it was hard because I went there with someone, ended up being divorced. And, when that happens, you tend to kind of lose a whole community and you start from scratch. And so I was in a foreign country, not married, have this job, lots of change. And there's a lot more to it than that. But there were just amazing people who rallied around me. But I kind of had to find my own way there. And that honestly led, and Ashish, I'm going to go back a little further. I believe that my life has been a whole series of fortunate events. And not the Lemony Snicket version. I got the fortunate events, not the unfortunate events. I have nearly everywhere I've gone fallen into something. And I think that's because I've been open to falling into something. I think sometimes you can miss that, all these things. You miss the forest for the trees. Something will be put in front of you and you put up all these barriers to it. I have left Australia, gone to South Korea, got this amazing job, worked on remarkable accounts, lived in South Korea. What a great country, right? Married a United States Marine that I met in November, was engaged in December and married 3 months later. So, it was all very quick and that's many years ago and we're still happily married, but every 2 years we moved. And so every time we'd move, there was an opportunity to reinvent. And I think that's been the most exciting part of my life, the reinvention. I would never have found myself to where I work today if it hadn't been for all those things that threw me off kilter and made me change direction. And I remember, Ashish, when I first came to the United States and started working for that little Australian expedition company and meeting you and other people in this industry, the other gentleman you mentioned earlier that we travel with a lot. And it was like I'd found my people. I had found a real purpose in what I love doing, which is more creative. I love to be creative. I like to think about things that are different than the way other people might do something. And I really enjoy watching people go, oh, that's a bit quirky. Really? You really want to do that? I mean, how many times have you and I dressed up in costumes and, you'll see people look at us and go, oh my God, aren't they old enough now that they shouldn't do that? No, you're never too old to dress up in a costume.
What did we dress up as last? Was it a
meerkats?
Meerkats, that's right. It was a meerkat.
Yeah, we were dressed up as meerkats.
Demeaning and fun at the same time.
Oh, yeah. But own it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you can't, here's the thing. If you can't take the joy in every day in having fun, dressing up as a meerkat, I mean, having people chase you around with stuffy animals, guerrilla marketing in ways that save your company money, then life is really boring. I mean, you've got to see the fun in everything you do. The Tommy Brady incident, I look back at that as one of my most fun road trips. At the time, I just wanted to jump out of a moving vehicle. But right now,
you want to throw me out of the moving vehicle. That's what you wanted to do, really. Yes, it's okay.
But that wouldn't have been nice. And I know your wife, and she's lovely, and I would have.
Oh, she would have helped you. She would have opened the door for you. Are you kidding me?
No. But so I know that's a long answer to your question, but I think that when things happen, like what happened in Korea, relationships, it's both sides that make or break them. So I don't blame anyone in my life for things that didn't work. You have as much impact on it as the other person. So for me, there are opportunities to reflect and learn and go, that was probably my fault, or I could have done better at that. And I think every relationship you do that. There are times you and I have had conversations and I've walked away and gone, I could have been much better at how I.
I remember those conversations. Not many of them, but I remember them. There's not many of them, but I do remember.
Right, but that you walk away and you've got to look back at it and you've got to go, okay, how could I have handled that in a way that was a learning opportunity for me,
right?
And a way for me to share what I'm trying to say better. And that's every day. Anyone who thinks that they're a brilliant communicator and they do everything right, I think they've lost the plot, because all of us, I mean, Leigh, how many times have I done webinars with you? And I think for me, it's always, how can I be better next time? What can we do next time that makes this more interesting for people? What makes them laugh? What makes them want to be here and not feel like at the end of an hour or 30 minutes that they've wasted, oxygen for the last 30 minutes listening to us? So I think all of the things that we've been through, Ashish, all the conversations we have, all the things you've been through, I'm going to throw it back at you. Your dad is a moving force in the industry. No one's ever gone because of the impact they have on other people. And your dad impacted me. He's impacted, of course, you are leading the charge in everything he created, but he is that softer voice behind a lot of the decisions I make, in the way he handled sustainability and the way he just spoke to you. I mean, I've met him a few times and it was this very soft spoken, and you just feel like he's got his guiding hand on the back of you. So, I think those are the things you've always got to be open to, those people that are always with you.
I think you again, you said something, it's not rocket science, but it's the absolute truth, right? You talk about falling into opportunities, falling into situations. That conversation I was telling everybody about, where you and I sat, and you remember that conversation, we were at the airport and we were talking about what you just told everybody in Korea. We were just about to enter, I think where we was the economic collapse. It was the full-on economic collapse. And we were both just wondering, like, okay, well, I was questioning whether my belief in mathematics was completely flawed. Whether, what happens if, we were basically playing doomsday. I was, and then you stopped and put things in perspective. And I've never forgotten that conversation. And, and I think you said it the right way. Every conversation is an opportunity to make a friend. If that person doesn't see it as that, then that's on them, right? And that's, to all of our listeners, that's what this podcast is about, right? It's not about, oh, look, here's who I work for and this is what I do. No.
That can change in a moment.
Right.
That can change in a moment. That's not what makes you powerful.
Absolutely. It is very much about what we stand for, right? And I think we have a mutual friend that always talks about the fact that who are giving more to this world versus taking. You and I both know who it is because she was at your 60th birthday party with us.
Hey, thanks for outing me. That's awesome.
Ashish, major faux pas there, my friend.
I know. See, I messed up completely there again. But you see, look.
Okay, revenge is a dish best served ice cold. Okay.
Oh, there, and you just met the real Lisa. There it is. Sorry again. Sorry again.
That's
but
okay.
It is the new.
It is a badge of honor.
There you go. And it is the new 30.
Because you actually mentioned something earlier, and you mentioned my scar, which very few people know about. And I wear shirts where you actually don't see it, right? So I do want to give kudos to somebody. So I had major heart surgery when I was 6 years old in Australia, and I was the very first child in Australia to have this kind of surgery and the first to survive it. And I look back at my parents who had to watch me get wheeled away into an operating theater, not knowing what that outcome was going to be, and my dad and my mom, and I look back on that, and that's my first. I didn't understand it until I was older. I don't think you appreciate your parents until you have your own children, right? Until you see them leaving or going somewhere, and your heart just wants to break, but you know you have to let them go. And I think now as an adult, I look back at that time when I was a kid, when I had this scar, I used to hide it. And I think now I've become more proud of it in being able to say the remarkable people who helped me get here is because of what happened back when I was 6. The surgeons, the doctors, my parents, the friends around my parents, the 4-foot, felt like he was 20 feet tall, the 4-foot panda bear that was at the end of my bed, all the memories I have of that. And I used to hide it and be ashamed of the scar because it was ugly. And now I realize that it's probably the most beautiful thing I have because
I agree fully.
Right? Because without it, I wouldn't be here. So I think sometimes this is going to get a little bit probably too profound for what you wanted, but we look at the things that are bad in our life and we try and push them under the rug and hide them. But those scars, those things that were bad are what make us who we are today. And if you don't embrace them and go, what can I learn from it? Why was it good for me? Then you've not learned anything. So I think that's the most important thing for me, that it's taken a long time, and thank you. Yes, it's taken till I'm 60, but it's taken me a long time to accept those things and to accept that I am the age I am. But oh my God, I made it to 60. And
that's the thing. Because I remember you telling me about, because I saw it for the first time, and I think to myself, she's too young to have had bypass surgery, because I know what that scar looks like. She's too young to have had that. Well, does she eat like just bacon all day? Is that what she has? Or is it just, is it, well, yeah, but I'm like, what? And then I got to hear that story, and you know what? You're absolutely right. It's every one of us has been through stuff. We talked last episode about some of the accomplishments Leigh has had, and the fact that as a single parent, what she was able to do, with 2 young children, how she raised them to be 2 amazing remarkable children. Yeah. And then I was, we've been talking about this. I remember I was giving a talk to somebody. I was giving a speech somewhere, and somebody had asked me, well, and I think I told you about this. They said, well, how come I should, why should I listen to you? Why should I talk? Why should I believe you? And oftentimes we get into our salesy mode and go, well, this is why, because of this and because of that. And something came over me. And honestly, I thought of you the whole time because I stopped and I said, I'm going to explain something to you about me. I said, I have earned the right for you to listen to me. I've been shot at when I was 17. I had a knife to my throat at 14. I got mugged at 9. I mean, you go down the list among everything else. I've seen what the dark side of this looks like, and I've seen what the dark side of humanity looks like, and I've been the victim of it. And I've earned the right to be here. And it's what you just said, that your scar, for example, and everything you've been through, it is a badge of honor. It is the most beautiful thing you have because it's made you who you are today. When I talked about my father, when I read his my speech or eulogy at his funeral, I talked about his chosen family versus his given family, and I talked about the choices he made, and then it hit me. I said 3 generations of our family are in this country because of him, because of a choice he made to come here and leave everything and not have a penny to his name. Right. And now here we are. He wore it like a badge of honor. And I think that's exactly it. All of us have been through something in life, whatever it is, wherever we're from. I don't care if you're the most entitled child in the world. You've still been through something. And that needs to be a badge of honor. But we as society get so focused on pushing people down to say, well, you look funny, or you dress funny, or whatever the case. And I'll tell you this, there's this really cool story. So there's a person I know here. She sits on my board of directors. Her daughter is on the spectrum, and so she is very much into art. She has other traits, but she is into Broadway and into art. So we had our outing, a company outing, and we did art here, and she showed up. I have never seen somebody absolutely just focused on what she was doing, and it was the most awe-inspiring thing that she did. And then afterwards, turns out that when she got done with that, she had basically kept going. When she got home, she kept going. And so I just talked to this person yesterday who was talking about a daughter and says, you have no idea. When she got home, she did this at home and did that home and did this at home. Do you know right now I'm trying to help her get an internship on Broadway? Just because that's where she belongs. And she's talking about becoming a set designer for the high school my son goes to and everything else and whatnot. And yet here we are trying to label this person as spectrum or Asperger's or autism or whatever it is. Are you joking? Look at what she's doing. If we may have an IQ of 150. That girl, and she's, I think, 16 or 17. That girl just made me feel that small in a good way, right? Because of the fact that I got to see what she's doing. And you have been one to point that out. So is Leigh, to point that out, to say there is something really good about that person.
Well, look, I mean, here's something. Sorry, Leigh, I was just going to say, some of the greatest minds in this world over history have been on the spectrum.
Albert Einstein.
Right? So, I mean, I think it's only in the last 100 years where things like ADD, people on the spectrum, have been labeled as the others type of thing, where they're just a part of the whole mosaic that makes what we do brilliant. And I think that everyone has their skill. Sometimes I think those of us who don't have those special superpowers are the ones that are lacking.
Absolutely.
Because they see the world in so many beautiful ways that we have kind of closed ourselves off to. So, my daughter has ADHD and dysgraphia and dyslexia and throw as many labels as you want on a kid when she was little. And I never let her think of that as being a negative. I told her that was her superpower. That was something that she had that no one else at her school had. And from the very beginning, she came to her IEP interviews with the school to set her learning, her classes for the year, so that she became her own voice. And that kid right now is studying cultural anthropology at college, and she's crushing it, because you should never tell someone they can't do something. But I am going to go back. Ashish, you mentioned that you were a victim, when you were younger with those things.
No, not a victim. I was.
You use that word though.
Yes.
But you have never acted like a victim.
No.
And that is what the difference is. Those made you stronger and made you have an attitude of, I can do better. I can show other people that these things don't define you. And that's what we've got to do. We can't be that thing that happened to you 60 years ago, or the thing that happened to you last week. And I'm going to go back to the whole power thing of people think it's your job and your position. How many times in our industry have we seen someone at the top of their game in a senior executive role, and they lose it and no one talks to them because they can't give them stuff anymore?
Right.
Really, that's not where you ever want to be in life, that people only see you for what you can give them.
That's right.
Right. You want to be in a position where if tomorrow all the wheels fall off and you're back at the beginning and you're starting again, that the people that are calling you are going, okay, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I have a question for you around that, because I think we talked about this last time too. And I was telling Ashish that really a lot of the things that happened in my life, I would also say were fortunate events, but many of them were as a result of someone seeing something in me that I might not have even seen in myself, but me believing, okay, well, if they see it, maybe it's true. And I wonder about that for you. Did you have those moments or those people who just pushed you beyond where you felt comfortable?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Nellie, every part of my life has been a little bit of that. Leigh, I'm going to ask you this question. Ashish, this is a very much woman to woman question. So you're going to have to zip it for a second. I, I think that's very much a female trait. Right? I think that's we as women have a tendency, I know we do. We tend to not see what's in us. Other people see it. They say, you can do this. And then we go, oh, okay, maybe I can. I'm not saying that is every woman. There are women out there who just go at it and they're brilliant. But I think men have this kind of, I can do this, perhaps even if they may not be able to. And we know some of them as well, but that's another whole podcast. But I think as women, we have a tendency to do that. We kind of hold back and it's like, do you think so? Do you think I can do that? And God bless those people who come to us and go, you can do this. This is something you can do. And Ashish, you have been a part of that for me, right? There have been times in my career where I've gone, I'm not sure this is where the direction I want to go. Am I capable? Okay, that's maybe the wrong word. Am I capable? Will I be able to do this that will result in what they need me to do? I don't want to fail anybody. I want to make sure if I'm going to do something.
I would add one thing to that, which is you have a level of expectations about your work that are far and higher above what anybody would expect. So I'm not sure it's about whether you can do well enough for them. It's for yourself. And it's admirable. Yeah. It's a great trait.
I hate when you do that.
I know, isn't it great?
But also, Lisa, in my case, and I wonder in yours too, for me, it was because I was more in a male-dominated field, but it was mostly men who were just like Ashish. But it was mostly men who've lifted me up and said, you can do this. Have you ever considered this? Or have you ever considered that? And I even see my older daughter now, who's in a very non-traditional male type dominated field. She is also being now lifted up by men who are saying, you've got this. Not that the women aren't being generous that way, but maybe just because she's not around as many to hear it from them.
Yeah, look, I was in advertising. Male dominated career, right, in Australia, and the people who lifted me up were the men I worked with who like kept pushing me and saw the abilities I had and gave me those opportunities. And the same in South Korea, very male dominated. And I think you're right. I think that and once again, it's not about just women lifting women up. It's men lifting women. It's women lifting men. We all do it together. We all rise.
All boats rise on the tide.
Yeah.
Right. We need to do like a list of all the things we've read.
Your other one was Theodore Roosevelt, by the way.
Right.
You speak softly and carry a big stick.
Who
was a great environmentalist, by the way.
Which I love. I gotta tell you, I love that phrase because oftentimes in this industry, we get, and not just industry, I should say all industries that have a public perception, right? Whether it's manufacturing, tourism, whatever it is, right? Some people just like to hear the sound of their own voice. And my belief when it comes to those people is just let me know when you're done. Let me know when you're done. Just keep going. Because the with both of you, and I think, the people that we all circle ourselves with, right, and surround ourselves with, they all are the same way. They might not have much to say, but when they do say something, it's worth listening to. Whether it's verbose, whether it's articulate, whether it's short, it doesn't matter. It still has some sort of value to it. I'll tell you, this happened to me I told Leigh about this. Happened to me probably 2 months ago. So I have a 12-year-old daughter, which Lisa knows, and Leigh, and a 17-year-old son who's about to go to college. So the 17-year-old is now in the application process and everything else, and is giving my 12-year-old advice on how to do homework and how to do different things. And one of the things he said is, make sure you're sitting up when you're doing your homework. Don't lie down, sit up to your homework. That's the case. So I go in the room and she's lying down. I go, didn't you listen to him? Didn't you take the advice? And so then something came over me. I don't know if I went to dad mode. So something came over me, and I basically just went, I said, do you think that you're not as smart as he is? I don't know why I asked it. And she stopped for a second. She goes, sometimes. I go, have I ever told you that you're not as smart as he is? No. Has mom ever told you? No. Has anybody in this world ever told you? And she, no. I said, okay, let me paint you a picture real quick. I said, she was entering into middle school. I said, when you were in your last year of elementary, Shiv had the best teacher in the world who prepared him for middle school, who got him ready for middle school. Your teacher was fired halfway through the year. You had to teach yourself how to do these things. I remember because I sat there studying with you and helping you with all sorts of things. You're not as good at math as he is, but you're better at writing. And yet you willed yourself into these advanced classes for math and whatnot. And I said, you think you're not as smart as him? I'm actually telling you, you're smarter than him. You're smarter than all of us. We're just waiting for you to figure it out, waiting for you to see it. And she got up and she hugged me, started crying and whatnot. But what's going on? And you never know. Apparently, she had it in her head that she was going to be second fiddle. Not because she was the second born, but it was like her role. And now, oh my gosh, she has the highest score in her math class. And this is somebody who's not good at math. And I remember just last night I went there, I looked at her and I said, see? I said, we're just waiting. This is your world. We're just living in it. We're just waiting for you to figure it out. We're waiting for you to figure out that this is your world. I said, we're keeping it warm until you're ready.
And that's special, Ashish.
Oh, it was.
No, it is. Leigh, I think you'd agree, right? Because that's how you make people feel. Oh. You've given all of us, I think, I know I can speak for myself, where you've nearly used those words with me at times, right? So, and it's not until someone says that to you and gives you the permission to be that person. It's nearly like giving you the permission to be that person. And I think that's such an amazing gift.
I appreciate that. Well, that's actually what this podcast is about. There's so much noise out there in the world. Yeah. Right? There's so much noise about everything. And people have podcasts about politics. And oh God, no. And economics and this. This isn't about that, right? Life is not about the noise, right? If we were to draw 3 lines, on a paper, and you've got the top line that goes up, the bottom line that goes down, there's a line in the middle that just stays where it is. What's the phrase from the best exotic gold marigold hotel? Dev Patel has a saying in this movie, and I love this. In the end, everything will be all right. If it's not all right, it's not yet the end.
Oh, I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
And you know what? I tell people this all the time, especially with my father. My father was 75 years old. I literally held him as he bled out of my arms. And I tell people this because this is important. We can't get so caught up in everything that's happening because we have a responsibility. We have an obligation in this life to do more, not take more, to give more, not receive more, right? And if every single person did that in whatever form that is, and I don't mean writing a check for a donation, I don't mean going and volunteering or just that. I mean just simply how you live. If everything you do is about that, and now take that, and if you're doing it, one more person, look at this podcast. The 3 of us are basically the misfits that just came together by chance, right? Before the pandemic, during the pandemic. In any other world, a Kenyan, along with the wife of a Marine, along with the first expedition captain in the world and a former Coast Guard.
I think I got elevated a few levels.
Oh, whatever it is, but it's still pretty impressive.
He does that.
In what world would we meet? In what world would we have met? Right? If we're talking about the circles we go into, what world do we actually have this conversation? Yet this band of misfits, and it's 3 of us and many more that have gotten together, who simply have a message to say that you don't have to argue your way through life. You don't have to actually feel upset. You don't have to be combative. You don't have to basically see things other people's ways. You get to see things your way. You get to be it. You just have to be articulate. You just have to be confident. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to be able to take a step and put a foot forward. You have to be willing to stand behind what you believe, stand behind, right or wrong. You have to be willing to stand behind your convictions. That people have a choice, either believe you or they don't, but you've got to be confident to stand behind that. And that's what brings us together. And as you said earlier, there are more and more people who are seeing that, and it has nothing to do with politics, right? When we talk about world economics, Lisa, you and I have talked about this, right? I will draw you a graph that goes back 50 years that tells you that every 8 or 10 years, something happens that will basically reset the economy. It's a downturn because of X, Y, or Z. It's a cycle. We can control as much as we want to, whatever the case, but you cannot control those cycles. The basic law of economics is what goes up must come down, what goes down must come up. Okay, so that's remove that. Basic law of politics, we give people way too much more credit for stuff they have no control over, right? Remove that from the equation. What do we have control over? What we do from the minute we leave our front door to the minute we come back, and even what we do in our house, right?
Right.
What we do and how we act, what we say, what we do, and do we actually stand for what we say? Does the action match the word? Right? What's the phrase? Does the paint match the blinds?
I've not heard that one.
I heard that from
Ashish, don't know. Let's not. I think you're getting ready to go somewhere really.
No,
bad.
no. I've heard 2 people tell me that. 2 people tell me that about this. I know where you're going. I'm not going there, but we're talking about this seriously. Does the paint match the blinds? No, I'm serious. This is a.
You got to stop right now, Ashish. We're going to move on. We're going to move on from this one. Leigh and I are both in agreement that you're right now.
Do you know we're going to be able to remember this conversation because this is live, and we're going to remember this, and you're going to remember you'll never laugh this hard in your life ever again. So you're welcome.
Let's just say walk the talk or something like that. Walk the walk.
Right? Yeah, walk the walk.
I will say, and look, you're right. None of what we're discussing is new. Right? It's what every day we forget about. We all go to these inspirational talks and you go, oh my gosh, yes, no, right. And it's all just prepackaged and repackaged in a different way for things we know we should be doing already.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the biggest learning point, that instead of waiting for, a couple of things, instead of waiting for someone to die to tell them how special they are to you, or to be a part of their life, or to pick up the phone, or to have coffee with them, do it every day. Don't, every day is a reset. I think sometimes I listen to people and they're it's awful and what was me, and I'm like, yesterday was awful. Today is a reset.
Yeah.
Today you have the chance to change whatever happened yesterday. And I know that's very Pollyanna of me, but I have to have that. I have to believe that. I have to believe that yesterday was a bad day. You get up today and you go, today's going to be a great day, until it proves itself otherwise. And
well, I would add one more thing to what you said, because you and I have talked about this. Yesterday may have been a bad day, but then the question is, what's one thing you learned from yesterday?
That bad day.
Because once is by accident, twice is on purpose. So what did you learn from yesterday that will apply to what you do going forward, right? Yeah. What did you learn?
Yeah.
So that's absolutely crucial. Very, very, very key.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that is, now that I've made a complete fool of myself around the two of you, it shows you how naive I am at times, but really.
You can call him afterwards and tell him what that really means, Lisa.
No, please don't. No.
Ask your wife then, she'll know.
No! No! I'm going to go, I don't want to look it up either because I'm afraid of what I'm going to find.
No, you know what, Ashish? We love you. We just want you to stay the way you are, so please don't.
Okay, good. Perfect.
No, Leigh and I will just be the ones, along with your millions of followers, who know the answer to that one.
At some point, somebody's going to have to explain that to me as I walk down the street somewhere. Well, I want to end our episode today with this. We have forgotten as a society, and you're still laughing about that, aren't you? You're still laughing about that. I think Tommy Brady just got replaced.
I think it might have. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Great day, Leigh. This is going to.
It can only go up from here.
Rails, me. Track, me. Yeah. Got it. I think I made Leigh start tearing up. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
From laughter. Yeah.
Oh, I have a goal to make people cry of laughter or some other way. I just accomplished it, so it's perfect.
Does this podcast have a rating?
No.
Right now it's 1. It was 5.
No,
It'll
I mean
be 1.
Family. I mean, it just,
Yeah, no, actually, it is. It's for everyone, but I think after today, I'm probably going to get called by the FCC.
Maybe.
So yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. We're just going to call these. We're going to call this podcast. Change the name to innocent innuendos. Innocent innuendos is what we're going to call it.
Unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences. There it is.
There you
Unintended consequences. I just learned my own lesson from the IMF. Are you listening, IMF? So I want to end this podcast by asking you a question. Have we forgotten how to say thank you? Please and thank you. As a society, have we gotten so caught up with our daily grind that we have forgotten how to say please and thank you?
yes. I think we have. I think we're so ingrained with these things and this is not a bad thing. This is a tool. It shouldn't be our life. It's a tool that we can use, right? How often have you and we travel all the time. We're in airports, and the difference a thank you will make in someone's life, the difference asking a question of someone. I'll give you a really quick example. I broke my foot.
Yes.
That's a whole other podcast. So the last few weeks, I've been traveling every week, but I've been doing it and using the wheelchair service at the airport. Those are people that you never see unless you need them, right? You're rushing through an airport, you've got your flight to catch. You're not paying attention to that person whose career, their life is pushing a wheelchair in an airport. And it has been such a humbling thing to have to be in a wheelchair and not be in control of my own movement. But the conversations I have got to have with the people pushing my wheelchair, where they've come from, how they made it to the United States, how excited they are to be here, how they love their job because they get to meet different people every day. And they're pushing you to a gate at an airport. And it makes you take stock and go, every job has the potential to be joyful. Right. And I look at people around me when I'm sitting in the wheelchair and how they treat these people. They kind of dismiss them. They'll say, excuse me, to push you through, and people totally ignore them. And I realize how easy it is for us to forget to be thankful for everyone in a location, like just to say thank you to the person who opens the door. That's not enough. You have to be thankful for everyone around you. Like if you're in the airport, please trust me. Next time you're in an airport and there's someone pushing a wheelchair, get out of their way, smile at them, smile at the people around us. How often, Ashish, have we talked about the homeless? One of the great things you can do for anyone is to just acknowledge their existence and smile at them and say, you're a person. And I think I see you. And I think that's in every job, in every place we go, be it buying a coffee, getting a sandwich, an interaction at a store. And the greatest joy is when someone's having a bad day and they've given you bad service or they've been snarky to you. The best response to that is being as kind and as nice back. Right? Because you don't respond insane. You respond in the way you want them to come back to you in the future. And so I think that's my greatest game every day. And we learned that from we're not going to name him, but a friend of ours who will walk down the street in New York and he smiles at everybody, right? It's his thing. He'll give them a big smile. And I think some of them think he might be a raving axe murderer, but the greatest majority of them smile back. And that's his goal, just to make someone smile in a day where maybe they're not having a good day. So I think it's important that, please and thank you, recognition in any form.
It doesn't have to be a trophy or an award or money. It's just a simple acknowledging.
An acknowledgement.
Yeah.
An acknowledgement. And often, really, in business, when people are working hard, they don't have to get a piece of paper that says, most sales or whatever. Sometimes just a phone call saying, I see you and I cannot tell you how excited I am to get to work with you. Or I just want to thank you. Or passing along a recognition from someone else. Hey, I was out in the field and someone said you helped them. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Leigh, what about you?
That costs a dime.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you? I'll ask you the same question. Have we forgotten how to say please and thank you as a society?
Well, I was prepared to say no, that we haven't, but after listening to Lisa, I think so. I think though where her answer ended, which is the recognition. I think we've forgotten how to be kind, how to make kindness part of our routine and our DNA. I would say more so than I'm in the South. People say please and thank you, yes ma'am, yes sir, all that all the time, but I don't know if it comes from a place in their heart, which is genuine. So,
Right. It's
So
easy to say
it doesn't
that,
cost anything.
but it's what is behind it.
What's behind it? What's the intent? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's where we're going to close today. So for all of our listeners, you've just heard profound words. Go out today and go say please and thank you to somebody and mean it.
Yeah.
Actually mean it. You have no idea what kind of impact you're going to have on somebody else's life. Be the success in their life. We talk about big successes in small places. There's no smaller place in somebody's heart. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they're feeling, what they're going through. Just say the simple words of please and thank you and a smile go a long way. So to all of our listeners, that's your homework. Go out and go practice what we talk about here. If you're listening to this podcast, go practice it. If you don't believe it, you shouldn't be listening to us. Take care, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to The Sustainable Voice. If you have a success story of your own, please reach out and share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.